Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. I have a sweet set of cards, literally sweet, featuring Simon Says Stamps, You Shine. I'm not very good about using my patterned paper. I tend to be a bit of a collector, but I am making more of an effort, and it certainly makes for quick and easy backgrounds for this country-themed set of cards. This is a large stamp set with loads of summer-themed images. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with this set, but I did know that I was going to be working with patterned paper and making multiple cards. I stamped 2 sets of the images on Bristol Smooth cardstock using Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. I was covering a lot of surface area, so to get a nice crisp set of images, I stamped each one 2 times and used a pressure tool. After the second stamping, I coated all of the images with clear embossing powder. When there's lots of coloring to do, there's nothing quicker than using water-based pens on embossed images. I don't have the dies for this set, so I'm going to be using my scan and cut, and I really need to minimize the warping when the heat is applied to the panel. While I'm working on the second set of images, I do have my heat tool heating up. Bringing the heat tool to its maximum temperature before applying it to the panel will help ensure that the embossing powder melts quickly. When the panel begins to warp, I flip it over and apply heat to the back to help flatten it out. All of the images were cut on a scan and cut with a 1/4 inch border. There's lots of cutting to do on a panel. I'm always a bit nervous about it shifting during the process, so I'm using some masking tape to make sure that nothing's going to move. I'm going to be coloring these images with Zig Real Brush markers. This is why I chose to stamp the images on Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm going to create a little bit of gradation of color, and so I'll be using a water brush pen with the markers. And Bristol Smooth can withstand a little bit of water without pilling and warping. When working on the sections of the orange, I'm not pulling that color up right from the bottom where I applied it. I work just below the line of color. This provides a sharper contrast between the shadow and the highlight areas. Based on one of the main images, the lemon, I'm guessing they were all meant to be lemons, but I like lots of color, so I've gone with a citrus theme. I like to apply my color all at once. Because the color is reactive with water, there's no worry about leaving any harsh lines. When I'm working with the water brush pen, you may notice that I'm constantly tapping it off on paper towel. When the color is being pulled out, the pen is collecting that paint. To create a highlight that is light and bright, I tap off that excess paint that is being picked up. To color this whole slew of images, I've only used 6 markers. If you're interested in the colors that I've used, they'll be listed on my blog at bonniecarolee.com. I colored a whole pile of images in under an hour. The embossed lines and the water brush pens really does make it quick and easy. Next thing I did is prepare the panels. In my mind, country and gingham go hand in hand. I've chosen 3 colors of gingham plaid from a paper pack called Simple Vintage Lemon Twist. All of the panels were die cut with Simon Says Stamp stitched rectangles. The 3 smaller panels, the sentiments were stamped directly on them with Simon's Intense Black ink and clear embossed. For the larger panel done in the black and white gingham, the sentiment was stamped on cardstock that had been colored with one of the watercolor brush pens. It was then die cut using one of the dies from Sentiment Labels. This is one of the sets that I use most often to get a nice straight sentiment. The sentiment is lined up on the grid of the paper cutter and the ends trimmed off. The elements are complete and it's time to put the cards together. I'm going to start by putting together just the card with the larger panel. The rest of the cards will be done in assembly line fashion. Twine is wrapped around the bottom of the panel and held in the back with glue dots. To give the panel just a little bit of dimension, I'm going to mount some black sheet foam on it and then put some weight on it until the glue is dry. An A2 size card base that's 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches is being matted with craft paper. My go-to is a 100-pound Desert Storm cardstock by Nina. Another good choice to go with that country theme. Then the foam back panel is centered on the craft paper. Both the window boxes and the sentiments are going to be mounted on foam. I'm using double-sided adhesive foam by Picket Fence Studios. Never throw away my cutoffs. I hang on to them for elements like this. Thin strips of foam are placed on either end of the sentiment so that it can sit over top of the twine. The last 3 cards, as I mentioned earlier, will be put together in assembly line fashion. The panels are going to sit on craft cardstock that measures 3 1/2 inches by 4 3/4 inches. Another piece of pattern paper was chosen from the paper pack. It was cut with Simon's stitched rectangle and then with their dot scallop border die. This die was also used to cut some black foam and I trimmed the scallop off. The foam back panel was adhered to the gingham one and then onto the craft paper cardstock. The last 2 gingham panels were simply mounted on black foam and then onto the craft cardstock as well. These last 3 panels are smaller and so I'm also going to mount them on black cardstock that measures 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. Then they are all adhered to top folding A2 size card bases. The elements are then arranged onto the panels. Some of the elements will be adhered directly to the card where others will be foam backed. This card, there was no need to add foam to either of the lemons because one of them was sitting on the foam back scallop panel. The cute bee is given a bump up with some foam. The other 2 cards with the single panel background, one of the pieces of citrus fruit will be adhered directly to the panel and the one overlapping it will be given some dimension with foam. Any of the additional elements like bees, flowers, and butterflies are given some dimension as well. For the butterfly, I do some hand shaping of the wings. I pop foam underneath the wings and then glue the body directly to the panel to give it a more 3-dimensional look. All of the panels are embellished with either confetti or sequins topped up with Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew. When the morning dew dries, it is clear, giving these simple embellishments a jewel-like appearance. And that wraps up this set of country-themed cards featuring Simon Says Stamps You Shine. If you like making cards and don't have a lot of time, pattern paper is a good choice for quick and easy backgrounds. Top that up with elements that are colored with water-based pens and it doesn't get any easier. I hope you enjoyed this video and as always, I appreciate your visit.